What's going on, people? It's Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Hope everyone's been doing well, staying safe, staying sound in this crazy, crazy time. Today, I wanted to talk about some more stories from my boy Grant Morrison. Patiently still awaiting his allegations to come out, but I've got some mini series by Grant, mostly published by Vertigo Comics, that I wanted to talk about with a little bit of superheroes thrown into the mix. So let's dive right into the first book. Kid Eternity. Kid Eternity was a three-issue mini-series published by Vertigo, written by Grant Morrison with artwork by Duncan Fegredo. It focuses on the character Kid Eternity. He's a character that can basically, whenever he says eternity, he can think up a dead person and sort of resurrect them for the time being. But when they do die, from what I remember, when the characters do die, they don't come back anymore. So a very, very cool concept. I really dig the concept. And basically the story follows a character named Jerry, who's a stand-up comedian. And you get these little bits in the story. They call them it's sort of the intro to what they call cantos within the story. And basically at the start of each one, you'll get like a page of him doing some stand-up, really really questionable material, but he's a stand-up comedian who got onto a late night talk show, and he's becoming, he's got things working for him, and Kid Eternity shows up, and things start to go downhill very, very fast as Shichiriron, as it's called, the villain, makes its way into the world and starts coming after Jerry, and Kid Eternity comes to help. Very, very cool story with very psychedelic artwork. It's a bizarre book that you really do need to read all three issues to appreciate the story, in my opinion. It's got great dialogue. The start is all over the place, so you will be very confused, but by the end of it, in Grant Morrison's fashion, everything starts to make sense and fall into place. I love it. I love it. It's what I've learned. At the start of the story, if things are really, really crazy and you're not understanding a lot of what's happening, stick with it, because it's likely that Grant just had all these ideas. He threw them all in there, and then he's going to connect all those plot threads. So this is a great example of that. A really cool story. This is the deluxe edition I have in front of me that collects all three issues. I really like it. I'm a fan of Duncan Fegredo's artwork. It's very Bill Sienkiewicz, Dave McKean style. Very cool. I really dug it. A nice story with a cool concept, really cool ideas, and very, very well executed, in my opinion. One of the few Marvel books I do have is Marvel Boy by Grant Morrison. This was the 6-issue miniseries in, I think it was 2000 that this was published by Marvel Comics. Of course, Marvel Boy is a Marvel Comics character, and he was actually created by Grant Morrison and J.G. Jones, who is the artist on this series. 6-issue miniseries that was fantastic. I really enjoyed the story. So he's essentially an 18th Battalion Cree something. I forget exactly what the terminology is, but he's part of this battalion that's on its way home, and somebody pulls him down to Earth. I'll just give it away. It's an old story. It's 2 decades old. Dr. Midas is basically the villain who pulls them down. You get introduced to his daughter, Oubliette. And it's a very, very crazy story that has multiple plot threads going on. There's a whole thread going on with this company, Hexus, that I don't want to spoil too much about. And then, of course, the overall story with Dr. Midas. But essentially, Marvel Boy, his battalion, his ship crashes. He's got crew members, and he gets mad. He ain't happy about it. So he starts, going after Dr. Midas, who it turns out was the villain that caused this problem. And as things start to unravel, it gets crazier and crazier. The artwork is spectacular. J.G. Jones is absolutely amazing. What a great artist. You may be familiar with him. He did Final Crisis with Grant Morrison as well, which was a challenging event. But Marvel Boy is a lot of fun. It's a great 6-issue story with, again, a lot happening. You get introduced to a really cool character who's very free-spirited. That's a huge trend in these books that I'm going to talk about, is young characters sort of fighting the status quo and taking their anger out on the world, which is not uncommon, but really like the way this was done. Again, it's one of the few Marvel books I have. I was able to, I decided to keep it, to hold on to it, and it's a fun time. It's a good 6-issue miniseries. It's like watching a great action movie with some really trippy Grant Morrison ideas. Let's just get the superhero comics out of the way, huh? JLA Earth 2 as a mini series. I think it was published as a prestige format book, one issue. Frank Quitely joining Grant Morrison on artwork. Great. I really enjoyed this. It's a story about Earth 1 and Earth 2. Alexander Luthor finds his way to Earth 2, which is the Earth where, the regular DC universe resides at this period, at this point in time in the DC continuity mythos multiverse. And so basically, yeah, Alexander Luthor comes and he says, "Hey, my planet's in danger. We got Ultraman, we got the Crime Society, and basically he wants help." And so that's essentially what the story boils down to. It's some of the best JLA moments ever from all the characters. It's the team that Grant Morrison worked with in the '90s run of JLA that he did. I forget what year this was published, but man, is it a really, really good time. In this deluxe edition, you also get 20 pages of bonus content. I really dig Frank Quitely's artwork, so I really, really enjoyed having this in a deluxe format. The story, I've reread it so many times. There are so many great moments for Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, Lex Luthor, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Everyone gets their spot in the spotlight, their time in the spotlight. It's excellent. I absolutely loved it. A great short read. It's, again, another fantastic JLA movie with an incredible plot that only Grant Morrison could do. Let's get weird. This is a standard size hardcover that I picked up years ago. I usually will get anything by Grant Morrison because I'm a huge fanboy. And it's a 2-in-1. You get two stories here. You get a story called Sebastian O and another story called Mystery Play. I forget who the artists are. I believe it was Steve Yole who did Sebastian O, John J. Muth who did the Mystery Play story. Both great artists. Steve Yole did Zenith with Grant Morrison as well. I like his artwork a lot. Great stories, both of them. Their Mystery Play was one of those stories I had to read a few times. It's still a bit strange to me. It's a bit too crazy for me, I think, but we'll start at Sebastian O for now. Sebastian O is about this character who has lived for an extended period of time. What's really cool is Grant Morrison actually creates a whole timeline from his birth and through all the centuries that he's lived through. This character, Sebastian O, he's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. He is the evil version of James Bond mixed with Sherlock Holmes. And basically the story starts off with him being locked up in prison, a prison that he escapes out of and continues to live the type of life he leads. And in this world that, this story takes place in, they're basically trying to fabricate reality, right? So, essentially make a virtual reality to get rid of all the nuances and problems that come with regular life, and to just have plants that don't give you allergies because they're made out of robot parts, whatever it may be, right? Crazy ideas like that. And so basically you see Sebastian O escape from this prison. He the town is after him, but he's got all these cool little tips and tricks. He's a really, really badass dude who's also, again, just got an elegant style about him. I really, really dug it. It's a very UK type story. Again, the artwork is fantastic. It's a shame. I thought it was going to be a deluxe edition because I remember on Amazon it said deluxe edition, but it's a standard size hardcover, really bad binding, FYI, but a great story. I really enjoyed that one. And then Mystery Play is about this sort of detective who shows up. There's a town parish that's basically putting on a play of the Bible, I guess, from Genesis to I forget the ending. I apologize, guys. I'm not Bible proficient, but so essentially you're following, they have this play going on, and at the start of the play, again, sorry, small spoiler alert, these stories are quite old though, God dies. The actor who's playing God gets shot. And so you start sort of, you have this detective who's on the scene and he's trying to figure out what's going on. You have a reporter who's following the detective to try and see what's going on. And this detective's, always, he's got a strange he's got a strange perspective on life. He's very focused on the details and then also bringing the details together in context to give them meaning. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in the story. The artwork is this beautiful painted style that's sort of like a cross between Alex Ross and Bill Sienkiewicz, with the sort of creepiness that Bill brings, but the beautiful, the faces, the clothing, everything that Alex Ross does. Really, really cool artwork. And the story is it's a trip. It's very centered around this whole play and the idea of religion and I'm still processing it. It's such a bizarre story, but it's part of this book. I enjoyed Sebastian O a lot more, in my opinion, but maybe you can convince me why Mystery Play should be a book I'm more excited about. The last set of stories I'm going to talk about is in this hardcover right here, a deluxe edition published by Vertigo. It is Kill Your Boyfriend / Vimanarama, both by Grant Morrison, both drawn by Philip Bond. These two stories, again, based in the UK, they're very UK stories. Just just reading them, you get that vibe from them. But the first one follows these two characters. Well, mainly it centers around this female who's a high school student. She's dating this sort of average guy who, she figures she's probably gonna marry because he's gonna do something with his life, and just just the middle class sort of lifestyle, right? She's sort of settled for that, and you see sort of the world around her that I guess teenagers do see, people, uh, parents being too intrusive and too nosy and looking into things too much and sort of trying to find yourself within the world. Everyone's trying to tell you you should be this, you should do that, you should do this is the way life should be. And a lot of people don't feel that way, right? They don't fall within the stereotypical structure that society has created. And these characters are basically the extreme version of that. It follows this girl who I don't remember her name ever being said in the story. It follows her, and this guy that she runs into, this rebel guy who is, again, smoking cigarettes, doing all the things you shouldn't be doing as a teenage kid, or you're told not to do anyway. And they basically, they go to kill her boyfriend. They plan to kill her boyfriend, and things just spiral out of control from there. It's an absolute crazy story, again, about the extremes of teenagers sort of trying to say we don't need to live up to these stereotypes. Things can be different. And again, in an extremely, extremely crazy way in this story. And maybe it's just a fun romp on the town that, we all think about once in a while, just letting loose and going crazy, seeing what happens. Great story. The artwork, is not the best, but not terrible either. I didn't mind Philip Bond's artwork at all for this story. And then there's Vimanorama, which is, again, the same creative team. Philip Bond's artwork looks a little better in this story. 3-issue. It was a 3-issue miniseries, and it essentially follows these characters, Ali and his family, along with this woman named Sophia. Ali and Sophia are sort of, they've been arranged to get married by Ali's family. Ali's dad, his brother owns a convenience store, all this stuff, right? There's a whole bunch happening with the family. The family's having struggles in between themselves. Everyone's stressed out. Everyone's trying to help each other and make each other better and make the family better. And Ali's sort of, again, another character who's lost and not too sure what he wants to do with himself. He hasn't found his calling yet, as it were. And he's supposed to marry this Sophia girl. He's worried she's not, all the things you would worry about as a guy who's, this woman just needs, the rest of your life. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. Philip Bond's artwork was a lot better in this, I thought. Maybe the coloring, too, is a lot more vibrant, a lot more exciting. But essentially, Ali and Sophia run into each other, and they stumble upon a 6,000-year-old underground city temple, a crazy, bizarre sort of area. And things, again, spiral out of control from there. So you have these Ramas that show up. You have the good side, you have the dark side, the light side, the dark side. The light side is run... it's led by this dude named the Ultra Hadin, and then the dark side is led by this dude named Ul Shatan. And so they're at war with each other. They've been at war with each other for many, many millennia. And because of Ali and Sophia, they have now come back into reality, and so this war is continuing again. It's very, very cool. It's not like, your stereotypical story where these godlike creatures are just completely ignoring people. What Grant Morrison and Philip Bond do is they bring that aspect, the god aspect of these characters down to the human level. One of them starts feeling the sensitivity that normal people feel to things like, again, the wind or a material like this desk, and starts realizing how much worse it is to be a person, and how much pain they go through and suffering. Really cool stuff. Really, really interesting stuff going on here, again, with these characters just meeting each other and connections growing between people. It's very fascinating. I don't want to spoil too much. It's another story that it's not too confusing at the start. This isn't one where Grant Morrison throws all these things at you. It's very straightforward, but very rewarding. I liked it. There are some really funny moments with Molotov cocktails in here. A really fun time. Both of these stories are great. I'm glad I picked this up because I've reread them a few times now and enjoyed them every time. So if you can pick up the deluxe edition, I highly recommend it. That's it. That was, I think, about 7 stories that we talked about across 5 books. So really great stuff. You can pick those up in hardcover format. Not all of them are oversized. It's a shame, I know, but you got to do what you got to do. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This is what we do regularly. We're going to get back into the flow of streaming things again, and hope you guys are, again, staying safe and sound out there, keeping your masks on when you have to, all that jazz. Thank you all very much for tuning in. This is Mike from the Hardcover Comic. You stay classy, Internet.